So this is what I bring to the relationship, rather than just being like, yes, let's be in a relationship, and then a few months down the line,
surprise! I'm crazy! Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, my friend Yolanda and I discuss a Yelp review that was left for a dance studio, where a young woman complains that one of the dance instructors was using his position of authority to become sexual with the young female students. We have a discussion about the ethics of the situation and try and figure out whether or not he actually did anything wrong. Towards the end of the video, Yolanda and I have a disagreement over whether or not a man is morally obligated to disclose to a new partner whether or not he is sleeping with other women. To begin with, Yolanda's perspective is quite black and white, whereas I see it as more of a grey area. And so we have a discussion, and it's interesting to see where we end up. But before we get to the video, please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. I post there every day, stuff only available for my Patreon subscribers. You'll be joining our community of like-minded people, plus it's a great way to help the creator. Any support you're able to give will be hugely appreciated. It has taken me some time to decide whether to write this review for various reasons, but I have ultimately decided to because if I was a potential student, especially a young woman, I would want to know this. Ago and had a wonderful experience with a great instructor, and enjoyed meeting and connecting with other classmates. However, about 6 months ago, it was revealed that one of the main instructors was pursuing romantic relationships with various students, all young women, and all within a short time frame or overlapping. I am one of the women that experienced this. For me, it began when I took a private lesson from him, in brackets, a new student and beginner, and was then offered free training by him to become his new dance partner. Now looking back, I feel he used his status of being an instructor to mislead me in his intent, which quickly turned into pursuing an intimate relationship. The other girls that I am aware of have had various experiences. I was informed about this by a few of the young women, including myself. I was told that a contract was put in place that would require a student and instructor to disclose if they were in an intimate relationship. However, I strongly believe that the overarching problem of an instructor repeatedly targeting students for personal relationships was not addressed. To my knowledge, there were no further repercussions or actions taken, and this person continues to teach there today. I stopped taking classes due to this experience and the disappointment of a business owner not taking further action on an issue I would deem as alarming. Overall, I really enjoyed the classes, instructors, and the community of dancers at this studio. However, I think that this is important for future students, and possibly current ones, to be aware of.
I don't think this one's totally cut and dry. I mean, you have two consenting adults having an intimate relationship, and whilst I think that his behavior is unethical, I think that it's difficult how to hand down disciplinary action because ultimately, he's being a bit of a sleazebag.
I think that anybody looking at this story can feel something slightly off about his actions and his behavior, but it's interesting to try and nut down, well, exactly what did he do wrong? Which part was unethical? Can you point to something specific?
Well, I think that he was using his position opportunistically to sexually engage with a variety of women. When women are going to this dance studio, they're going there to learn how to dance. They're not going there to have some whirlwind affair. Or maybe they are. And if they are, then they're in the right place, clearly. Because he's your man.
Yeah, sure.
But it seems that he was a bit deceptive about, that's I think part of the issue, is he was a bit deceptive about how he sexually engaged with her, that the way that she describes it, it seems as though it was created this perspective of, this special relationship between the two of them, because it seems she was surprised to find out he had these other relationships. So it seems like, he spoke about her being his dance partner, and so if he's doing this to numerous women when he can only have one dance partner, then that's misleading and it's lying, and lying is unethical. Sure.
I think that's a good red flag you can put straight away in the sand. Where was the lack of ethics? In being disingenuous,
Yeah.
I think this guy's got a bit of a racket going. Evidently, it's not I just thought you were an amazing dancer, and I discovered, that I had feelings for you. No, I'm guessing this guy's got a plan. He's got a string of women that he's running through the same routine. And so when he asked them to be a dance partner because you're so talented or whatever, I think he's probably lying.
Apparently this is not a one-off situation, that this is actually quite common within the dance world. I mean, it seems like a bit of a ploy that some men can use. But the other part of this is looking at the owner of the studio's response. And what are your thoughts on that?
I don't understand why the owner, let's take the ethics out of it, why from a purely business decision isn't he bringing this instructor in line? It's only going to have negative repercussions as the reputation gets around and people talk about it, regardless of whether or not you can point to something specifically unethical or even prove it. Obviously, his reputation as the dance studio is going to decline if he's constantly just trying to sleep with all these women and is making them uncomfortable. As a business owner, I'd be like, "Oi, I'm not paying you to treat these as dates."
He's probably been there for a substantial time and they've got a relationship that's developed. Who knows what kind of relationship. Maybe she's also part of his entourage of women.
Harem.
Maybe a lot of students are drawn to him because he does have quite a charismatic personality. I mean, if he's able to seduce so many women, he must have something about him that is quite attractive in nature. So in one way it can be bad for the studio, but in another it will draw in clients. You can't just flat out fire someone. You need to actually go through a process first.
Yep.
And so this would be the first strike. The first strike, all right, we're putting this in place. We hadn't openly spoken about it before. Please do not be sleeping with all the students. If you are, let us know so we can actually monitor this. And so I think that this
the guy has to turn up with 10 forms.
Really? All right, put him in the file.
Here's a hypothetical. If, on their first private dance lesson, he said, "Look, I actually have a bit of a conflict of interest. I'm interested in teaching you dance, but I also am feeling like there's a potential for romantic feelings to discuss. I just feel like I need to be upfront about that. I understand if you don't want to come back." If he'd done that, there'd be no issue, right? It's the fact that he was slightly misleading. Or do you think there is?
I think if he did that and also acknowledged the other relationships that he's involved in.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Because I think if you're sexually involved with someone, even from just a sexual health perspective, that openly communicating your relationships with others is important. And also from, a respectful perspective on emotions as well, that understanding that some people might not be comfortable if you're engaging with numerous partners.
That is an ongoing discussion for men in the polyamory community as to when is the appropriate time to tell somebody, because women are just inundated with romantic options all day, every single day. When a guy comes out in the first instance and says, "By the way, I'm polyamorous," she's like, "Okay, cool, well, there's 50 guys offering me monogamy, so I'm not even going to bother kind of trying." So there are some men who are like, "Yeah, you don't need to tell them for a little while." And then there are some people like, "What are you talking about? You have to be upfront from the start." I'm guessing you're on that camp, right?
You guessed correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm a big believer in informed consent. Coming from a psychology background, that's something that's really emphasized. And that's not even just from a sexual perspective. In psychology, when we're looking at psychology studies, you have to be ensuring that people know everything that they need to know in order to make the decisions that they're going to make. That if you are withholding information that would change their decision on the basis of your own benefit, then, that's misleading. I think, sexually engaging with a partner that wouldn't engage with you if she knew the reality of your other relationships, for me that seems unethical. And I think the perception that that women will have all of these options to choose from, so she'll totally disregard you if for being poly, I feel like that is not acknowledging the diversity of men out there. That whilst she may have many different options available, at the same time, if you share a connection with someone, then that is something special to itself. And if she really values the relationship, then she may be open to considering the poly thing. But at the same time, if poly isn't right for her, then engaging with her to begin with, not telling her that in order to try and lock something in just to later on disappoint her, I don't know. I think that it could actually jeopardize the longevity of the relationship in the future, because you're building a relationship on distrust.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
From a practical point of view, I would agree. Can I advocate for the devil just for the purpose of intellectual
absolutely.
exploration? I think that it's actually not an issue that's completely black and white. And the reason I'd say that is, at what point can you really say that another person is entitled to information about you? You know, like, why is your sexual activities the other person's business? I think there's a legitimate discussion to be had around that. Like, well, no, you're not entitled to know everything about me. And informed consent is extremely difficult when it comes to coming to a romantic connection, because you might date a woman and only after 6 months of dating her find out that she still has feelings for, like, her ex, or she has bipolar disorder or some other crazy childhood trauma that's really going to impact your relationship that you wouldn't have got involved with had you known at the start. And so it does seem to be a very difficult, very much a grey area. That's why I can't make a decision one way or the other, because, well, how much information are you legitimately expected to tell somebody in the beginning about yourself so that they can be considered informed? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good argument. I guess for me, it's about looking at what it is that they're consenting to. That, you know, if we're talking about all of the difficulties that someone might be bringing with them, the baggage, then I feel like that is something that would be brought up, at least for me personally, in the if you're exploring having a relationship together, consenting to that, you know, if a partner wanted to be in a relationship with me and I had particular baggage, that I would want to say up front that, you know, this is like what I'm working with, and so this is what I bring to the relationship, rather than just being like, yes, let's be in a relationship, and then a few months down the line, you know?
Surprise! I'm crazy!
For me, when I'm engaging in relationships with others, I like to do so in a manner where I'm being thoughtful about the impact that I'm having on them.
I agree, and I'm quite satisfied just hearing you say that it's complicated, because that's how I feel about it, regardless of whether or not I'm able to make a definitive black and white statement. That's ethical, that's unethical. I think that if it's obvious that it's an issue to the other person, like they're asking, you've got to own up to it straight away. But if you're getting the vibe that it's not necessarily relevant to them, there's a grey area, and I think that there's some fascinating ethical discussions that come in there, but it has to be a discussion. There's not a rule book, I guess.
Yeah, actually what you just said is my thoughts exactly, that I think, you know, it's about using your own gut sense as to what is important to the individual. You know, that if you're about to engage with them sexually, and by this point you have a bit of a read on them and you can see that they're very interested in pursuing a monogamous relationship when you know that that's not what you can offer, then I feel like it is unethical not to share the information that you're engaged with multiple partners, because then that's deceptive.
It's outright misleading them, you know? Like, if they're like, hey, I really want a monogamous relationship with you, that's what you want too, you're not seeing anybody else, and you're like, nah, baby, you're the only girl for me, you're lying, you know?
Exactly.
That's no good.